It's Friday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. Terrific show coming up. A little something different in a few minutes here. Tony Voda of Minneapolis, a super fan, I would say, a baseball enthusiast of epic proportions, travels around to a lot of games, is a huge Twins fan, but travels around to a lot of games in general. He's got over 2,000 baseballs over the years at various games, whether it's live action, whether it's batting practice, over 2,000. The story, though, is about one that got away, a famous one a couple weeks ago, and what happened in the aftermath. So I wanted to talk to Tony about that. Really good guy. I've known him. I've met him before. I've known him on social media. We share a love of the Hold Steady, local/New York band. Craig Finn, who has been on the podcast actually before a couple of years ago. We have that in common too. But I got in touch with him after I saw something written about this and had a great conversation with him. So that will be coming up here in just a little while. Football thoughts at the end of the show today. 5 Vikings storylines that I'm curious about, that I'm wanting to see going into the season. Season opener Sunday against the Giants in New York. Twins win 4-3 against Tampa Bay. I would argue one of their most important wins of the season. Felt a bit like a playoff game in terms of magnitude, in terms of quality, in terms of how the runs were scored. Big one for them, and now they go to Kansas City, try to keep that going in another important series. They're all important right now, but against Kansas City, a team they're battling with in the wild card race and still in the AL Central race. So that series is important. We'll get to the result on Thursday here in just a minute. First, though, what did I miss? What is Shaq's beef with Rudy Gobert? I don't get this. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think it was Wednesday. Interview with Complex comes out. They ask him who is the WOT player of all time. You know, you got the GOAT now, obviously greatest of all time. They asked him who the WOT NBA player is, worst of all time. Shaq barely misses a beat and says Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, now with the Timberwolves, that's what makes this relevant, particularly to us and to this audience. Key player for the team that went to the Western Conference Finals, of course. Worst active player of all time in the NBA. Shaq goes on to explain it in a curious fashion. He says, if you sign a contract for $250 million, show me $250. You got guys like him that bleep the system and over there making all that money and they can't play. I don't respect guys like that. Now, he had also mentioned Ben Simmons right after Rudy Gobert, but Gobert was the first name out of his mouth. If he's lumping Rudy Gobert into the conversation with Ben Simmons, I don't get that. First of all, what is that all about? Where are you making that comparison? Rudy Gobert, even if you think he is moderately or slightly overrated, is a very good player. He is very useful, a high percentage shooter, a very good defensive player at the rim, guarding multiple positions. The defensive impact that he has, all you have to do is watch a handful of Timberwolves possessions to see exactly what he does. Yeah, he's not particularly great at guarding the perimeter. I don't know a ton of 7+ foot centers who are great at that, but he's not bad at it. He's not terrible at it. If he's put in isolation as he was in that Maverick series against Luka, bad things might happen, but that's not necessarily on him. Anyway, tangent there. Gobert is not the worst player in the NBA. He is one of the best. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's certainly one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He is, in fact, earning his money. He has played, let's count this up. He played 76 games last season out of 82. That's awfully good. And he played in the playoffs, of course. The year before that, he played 70, even though he was battling that back injury for most of the year. Year before that, 66. The year before that, 71. Year before that, 68. Year before that, 81. He's got another year with 81 games played. He suits up. He plays the vast majority of games. He plays through stuff. Yeah, if he's injured, he's injured. He sits out. I get that, but that's not a bad kind of reputation right there if you're playing, 70 games a year for in a 7 or 8 year span. He is earning his money. Now, I don't want to disparage Ben Simmons, but if you're going to lump him into the Ben Simmons category, Ben Simmons has played 57 games total the last 3 seasons. That's a guy who maybe you could say, yeah, he's not necessarily earning his money. Rudy Gobert is earning his money. He is playing at a very high level. Yeah, a couple of years ago, even in his worst season, he was a useful player for the Timberwolves. He wasn't everything you wanted him to be after the trade, after what they gave up. But he was still a useful player. He was still a good player on a playoff team. He was, a defensive presence, even if he didn't make a defensive team that year. Rudy Gobert, far from the worst of all time. Now, a couple things on this. One, Gobert responded. I hate that he has to respond to this because this is kind of the era we're living in right now. But Gobert responded to this on Twitter on Thursday on X. Said, "It is sad to see someone that has accomplished as much as you did, Shaq, both in sport and business, still triggered by another man's finances and accomplishments. I get the entertainment part, but unlike other folks, you don't need that stuff to stay relevant," Gobert wrote. 2 things on that. One, feels like a shot from Gobert at not just Shaq. It was a pretty polite takedown of Shaq, even though he's got a right to be angry. Feels more like a pointed attack at Charles Barkley, who's been all aggressive against Gobert for years now on inside the NBA, which of course Shaq is on as well. They have this weird fixation on hating Rudy Gobert. I don't quite get it. I don't know what it is Gobert did to make them so mad. Maybe it says he doesn't quite play the way they played the game, things like that. But that felt like a shot at both Barkley and Shaq, which is good. Second of all, I hate that this gets any oxygen at all because this is the sports media landscape that I try to avoid. I have opinions about things. Yeah, I'm going to have opinions about things. Sometimes I'm going to have a big opinion. I'm not going to have an opinion like this, though, that just seems entirely manufactured, blown out of proportion. Did you see this? This guy called this guy the worst. Did you see this is the greatest thing of all time? Everything's the greatest thing of all time or the worst thing of all time. None of that makes any sense. None of it is particularly relevant. None of it advances any kind of insightful or good conversation, but we have to bring it up in this context because, yeah, it's about a guy who plays for the Timberwolves. So, yeah, Shaq is getting whatever engagement he wants out of this. Not that he needs it, but he's getting the attention he probably craves right now. It's just kind of sad. I hate this form of sports journalism. I hate this part of the media landscape these days where everything has to be the best, the worst, the loudest, crowding out for attention, things like that. It's okay to have an opinion. We're all going to have an opinion. We can debate things. We don't need to debate something so absurd as whether Rudy Gobert is the worst player in the NBA right now. He was the defensive player of the year this season. I'm mad about this. I shouldn't be mad about this. It's just absurd. It's bizarre to me. I'm glad that Gobert, I guess, in certain ways responded to it tactfully. I hope this story just goes away. I hope the Wolves boycott inside the NBA and go on to win the championship and nobody ever talks to the clowns over at Inside the NBA because they don't deserve it. Okay, now the Twins. Let's talk about that. I'm going to take my own advice from that last segment. I'm going to dial back what maybe I think about this game because it is just 1 out of 162. Some of them take on a certain level of importance. I'm not going to say that was the most important win of the Twins season on Thursday, beating Tampa Bay 4-3. I do feel like it was a pretty important win, though, right? You're struggling. You had a bad homestand. You've lost 2 out of 3 already in Tampa Bay. You're about to go to Kansas City, another contender, another team you're trying to fend off in the wild card race, a team you're trying to leapfrog and stay ahead of in the division race as you both chase Cleveland. You don't want to go into that series on a negative note and with another loss. One of these days, somebody in the American League is going to start putting together 5 out of 6 wins, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, someone's actually competing with the Twins for a wild card spot now. They've been lucky in the last few weeks that Boston, Seattle, even Kansas City the last 7 to 10 days have not been playing very well. Detroit's kind of popped up a little bit, but still, like the lead in the wild card race is still like 5 with only like 22 games left. Like the Twins are in good position, largely because nobody else is chasing them. But at a certain point, they need to win games. You can't just lose out the rest of the year and make a wild card, right? They probably got to win at least half of their games. If they win half their games, they go 11-11 down the stretch. There's a pretty good chance they're going to be a wild card team at least. So stacking up wins, winning games when they have a chance is important, especially again, to kind of curb this momentum, to curb this negative run they've been on. So to win 4-3, to get Pablo Lopez pitching as well as he did deep into the game, almost goes 7 innings, has to come out after a million-hour review by MLB on a silly challenge, a silly play where had to decide if the runner got to second or third, has to come out of the game. But Griffin Jax comes in, gets 4 outs. They slam the door, they shut it down, and they get the win. Royce Lewis doesn't have to play big bad second base. He gets to DH. Good thing because Edouard Julien plays second, hits a 3-run homer that is really the biggest hit of the entire game. They win, get out of there with a split. Bench coach Jace Tingler was tasked with addressing the media afterwards. Here is what he had to say about it, largely in line with what I was saying.
Very good win. All the way around, I think all the position players, played a role today. Everybody got in. A lot of storylines. Julian with the big 3-run homer. Wallner adds one on, and then it was so encouraging today. Pablo, as well as he's been throwing the ball, this may have been as good of a day with some of his best stuff we've seen literally in 2 years, and so for him to be throwing the ball so well this late in the season is great. I think maybe the extra day rest here and there has helped, and what Jax did today, coming in for the first time, getting 4 outs for us, 4 crucial outs, and then Duran was able to slam the door in the ninth. So very good way to get out of here with a split and get on the road to Kansas City.
Now, it's interesting to hear Tingler heap so much praise on Pablo Lopez. I mean, so much is being put on Pablo Lopez right now. I've said this a few times, but it is being magnified even more after you see what happened the other day when Louis Varland gives up 8 runs as, follows an opener, but he's expected to be the guy who's going to pitch the bulk of the innings. He's ostensibly a starter in that scenario. Zebby Matthews has had some rough outings lately. Festa's been good. David Festa's been good, but he's only going to pitch 5 innings probably before you got to take him out. So having the Pablo Lopez start and winning the Pablo Lopez start, winning the Bailey Ober starts, because he's been awfully good outside of that one blow-up outing against Atlanta. Like, everybody knows that they've got to win those 2 games started by those starting pitchers. They won the Pablo Lopez game yesterday. He pitched, like Tingler said, very well. He is ascending down the stretch, not descending. They are going to need every single bit of ace-like stuff from Pablo Lopez down the stretch to make sure they are staying in this race, to make sure they are on track to make the playoffs. They got it yesterday, and they'll need to keep getting it down the final 3.5 weeks of the season. Happy to be joined today by Tony Voda of Minneapolis, a Twins fan, someone I've known at least on Twitter, and I think in real life a couple times at the Hold Steady shows. We both have an affinity for the kind of semi-local band Hold Steady. Some of their members, especially Craig Finn, from here and identify with Minneapolis quite a bit. Tony's on for much different reasons today, though. Tony, how you doing?
Very good. It's a beautiful Thursday here in Minneapolis, sunny, and that in-between period when it's perfect weather.
It is. It's often perfect weather in Los Angeles as well, where you found yourself a couple of weeks ago. August 23rd, Dodgers against the Tampa Bay Rays, who ironically Twins were playing right now.
Yeah.
You're there. I'm gonna kind of spell this out first, and I kind of want to set the scene. You're there. It's potential for history. Shohei Ohtani is, potentially going to join the 40-40 club in that game. He's sitting on 39 home runs at one point,
Yep.
and you're in kind of right center, and he launches a ball deep into the night sky. You're right there. I've watched the replay. You're right there with your glove. Ball bounces off the glove back into the field of play. We're going to talk about that in a minute. What, both historically and in the moment, what brings you, someone who lives in Minneapolis, to Los Angeles in that particular game?
That particular game was just kind of a wild stab in the dark. I booked that probably right at the beginning of the season, so I didn't know that there was going to be history. But with Shohei, nothing is really surprising. Did a California trip, saw the Twins and the Padres on that Monday before. Then on Wednesday, went to the Athletics because I wanted to see the Coliseum one last time, and decided what better way than the cherry on top being Dodger Stadium.
So you're a big baseball fan. You just like to see games, and like anyone who likes to see games, just like me, you also would love to catch a home run ball or two, or get a ball at least. I've never gotten a ball at a game. I've been to hundreds of games. I've never gotten a ball at a game. I don't count the foul ball that came out of old Midway Stadium after I left a Saints game early as a ball that I got, and I've never gotten a ball. How many balls have you gotten over the years?
Over the years, it's tough. If you go to BP and all that, it's really easy to get.
Not
but
for
when
me.
it comes, well, for those who are wild like us and go to games and know how to scout and do all that stuff, closing in on 2,000 baseballs. So
2,000 baseballs. What drives you to want to get all those baseballs? What do you do with 2,000 baseballs?
I don't keep all of them. That's first and foremost. The ones that I do keep are like they'll have commemorative ones celebrating certain years. Like the Twins did one a couple years ago for the 60th anniversary of the team. But otherwise, it's just a blast. Just going out into the outfield before the game. I mean, kill some time, bring out the glove. Hopefully, it's lucky, and just be part of the game. It's really one of the only sports where you can kind of, as a spectator, still be active in the game and have a piece of the equipment regularly fly into it. So it's still maybe it's the glory days of playing high school ball and stuff, but to prove that I still have it.
To prove that you still got it, which makes a certain amount of sense. What's the best ball that you've gotten, would you say?
The most memorable one is Kenny Vargas's first career home run. And
that is a name from the past, Tony. Thank you.
Right. And it's funny because just a couple years ago, went down to Mexico to see him play down there. And he was playing, there's a team that's right on the border. So one of their stadiums is in the U.S., one is in Mexico. And I got to go down there and surprise him because he still recognized me, because he still follows me on social media and stuff. Okay. So it was fun. It's nice to have those connections. And that was also the first home run that I ever caught. So it was kind of fitting in a way that we both had our first, got to give it back to him. And he's just been a good guy to me ever since.
So back to the night of August 23rd. It's tie game, bottom of the ninth, 3-3, 2 outs, I believe, bases loaded. Ohtani is sitting on 40 steals, 39 home runs, launches a ball deep, but kind of close to the wall. And you're right there. You're standing right there, and the ball comes your way, hits off your glove, bounces back into the field of play. Still a home run. I see you put your hands on your head. You're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? What did happen?
So as soon as he hit it, everyone could tell that it was gone. It was just a matter of, is it going to be short or is it going to be really deep? And most people that I was talking to that day, especially the locals that know his tendencies and kind of how to play him, they were saying, oh, it's going to be deep in the bleachers. You're going to be lucky if you have a shot in the front because we've never seen him go into that home run porch area. So as soon as he hit it, I was like, oh, okay, it's coming right at me, but it's probably going to carry.
Yeah.
And it didn't. Because like you said, it was that towering shot. So it really started to die soon. And then I was like, uh-oh, this might actually be close to the track. And at that point, I didn't want to fan interfere either, because as much as I got on myself for dropping the ball, no one would have forgiven me if I would have interfered with that ball and taken away history. So you
didn't want to be your Bartman moment, right?
No. I'd rather be Butterfingers than Bartman. So
that's fair. But so it's coming your way. I mean, catching a home run ball is hard. Like catching any kind of ball like that is hard. It's way up there. It's like, it's not just like catching a ball in the outfield. You're
right.
contending with other people in the crowd. Looks
There's
like
movement
maybe
on the ball.
Yes. Looked like you maybe got bumped a little bit. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so it's coming in, and I actually had to move about 4 or 5 seats to my left. And I'm getting over there, and I saw that there's another fan over there. And again, it might be the Minnesota nice in me that I didn't want to fan interfere as well as interfere with the other fan too much. But I kind of get in it and keep it to my left side and just play it enough where it's up. And like you said, you can kind of see right at the last second, and I'm thinking it's meant to be. It's coming right in. And then last second, like you said, right as the ball comes in, the other guy's bare hand comes in, just touches it enough where it starts to close, and it literally hits right there.
Oh.
And at that moment, like you said in the replay, I knew it couldn't have been more than a second when my hands just started to go right above my head. And I'm just thinking, that was my shot.
So what's the next? Yeah, I mean, the game's over. It's a walk-off home run. So you don't have time to dwell on it at the game. Like everyone's probably like, game's over, we're leaving. What's the immediate aftermath like for you?
It's wild because I described it as there was 45,556 people. 45,555 were ecstatic.
Right.
One was about ready to cry. So it was so interesting, but I had made some friends with some of the other baseball fans that like to go catch balls, and met a family out there that I've been talking to on our YouTube channels and stuff like that. Finally got to meet them in person, and it was that family after the game that came up to me, started talking to me. They didn't even know because they couldn't see. They were shielded from exactly what happened. So I told them what happened. And for the next hour, they were both consoling me, going over it, looking at replays. I started to get a bunch of texts in from other friends and stuff. And they're like, we know that you would have caught that. We did see interference. It's all good. So it's in that story that Bill Plaschke had in the LA Times. I really wanted to convey how much love that I got from the Dodger fans in general, because there were some that didn't know me that were just like, hey, it's okay, man. This is awesome. Like, you were right there. And then there was other people that were really close to me that were just super supportive. And it maybe took about 15 minutes, but at that point, through some of my own mental health reframing and learning how to cope with things, I was really able to see that, on a normal Friday night, I would be at home in Minnesota, probably getting ready to go to bed at that time. But instead, I'm on the West Coast, Dodger Stadium, perfect weather, and I got to see history. So I can't complain.
And that's huge, right? Because I mean, if you dwell on it, which I'm glad you're not, like, think about like that ball is a keepsake. It's potentially valuable. And people could have taken that a completely different direction at you, but they didn't. So I mean, I'm so glad you're able to think of it in that kind of space, because the ball bounced back onto the field, right? I'm imagining Shohei was able to get the ball at that point, right?
Well, no, and that's where it gets wild.
Okay.
So Jose Siri takes the ball, and earlier in the game, I had
That's right. Yeah.
I had been kind of talking to him, and every once in a while he'd like motion to me. So I thought, oh, this is also my shot. Maybe he'll come over and toss it over because he was looking like he was going to toss it.
Yeah.
He tossed it way into the bleachers.
So somebody else.
Yeah,
Somebody else has the ball. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that they're actually from Chicago. They were a Cubs fan that was just randomly there too.
Okay.
So out of all the people that interacted with this baseball, none of them were local LA Dodger fans, and that's crazy to me.
That is crazy. So what's it been like, talking about this? Like you said, you did the piece with the LA Times. You kind of, people have been, it's something you're now recognized for to a certain degree. I'm talking to you right now. Like, how does that feel? How does it feel to be kind of like this interesting piece of baseball history?
Um, in my mind, I wouldn't have played it out this way. As much as I love talking to you,
Right.
the alternative could have been meeting Shohei Ohtani face to face, which happens to almost no one. So that alone is like the bummer. And then, when you catch a historic ball like that, there's usually some bargaining and you get things from the players or the organization. And really what was on my mind is like, one, I want to give the ball back to him. And two, my dream has always been throw out a first pitch. And that would have been like my biggest thing. It's like you said, there's monetary value to it. So if they didn't want it with the Japanese market, I'm sure it could have been big bucks, but I wasn't thinking of that first and foremost. It was just, I've missed out on things, but that's also just an alternate universe. And it's also kind of nice to be still under the radar, because you don't know what you're going to get with that type of fame or potential riches. So
yeah,
I'm no lesser of a person now than I was before the game. So I can't complain.
What's next then? Do you have other games on your docket? Have you been to other places since then?
I have not since then. Gonna go to a couple Twins games here. Hopefully the playoff push. Get to see some playoff baseball. Was there last year dressed up as the Grim Reaper, and I can say that I was the one responsible for breaking that playoff curse. So Twins fans can thank me. Yeah. But other than that, I think next year I really want to go to that game in Bristol. They're going to be playing it at a racetrack. This year I went to the one down in Rickwood, so I'm really interested in hitting up as many different stadiums as I can.
Does the glove always come with you? It's a pretty distinctive glove.
Yeah, I got this about 2 years ago, and it's kind of funny because when I went down to San Diego, I brought another glove.
Okay.
And it was an all black glove, and that was a Mike Moustakas model that was given to me by Trevor Plouffe.
Okay.
And so I got to give it back to him. He played with it a little bit on the field because I did the pregame tour. He was like, "Oh, cool. Nice seeing you again," stuff like that. Got the glove back, and I was like, okay, for that game, I'm going to use it. Well, dummy me, I didn't use it at the LA game. And sure enough, in my DMs a little bit later, he's like, "Hey, man, I saw, why weren't you using my glove?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm not that guy. I'm not the colorful guy. I should have been all black like you. My bad."
Oh, man. Well, what a moment. I love the humanity of this. I love how you've reacted to it. I love how the people around you have reacted to it, because at the end of the day, what are you going to do, right? It was a ball. It's like any athlete who makes an error or strikes out or misses a free throw. It's like, at the end of the day, you tried. Like, sometimes it's not going to work out, and that's all you can do at the end of the day, right?
Agreed, 100%. And like you said, I really want to thank everyone around me that was super supportive, and all the random fans, all the ones that I knew, just everyone, even yourself. It's nice having that community and seeing that there's just this positive force out of something that could have been pretty negative.
Maybe you will get to throw out a first pitch at some point. Maybe this is just the universe's way of saying the Twins are going to go on a long playoff run this year. Although I think they could maybe use you as a starting pitcher at this point because they're a little thin right there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. All we know is you did your best, and I love, like I said, the reaction to it all. It was painful to watch the video a few times, just be like, oh man, I see exactly what happened. But once you get past that, the story itself is great. And Tony Voda, I really appreciate you rehashing this one more time with me. And best of luck on your baseball journey going forward.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it.
Loved that conversation with Tony Voda. Hope you guys did as well. Just a cool story, a cool guy. I love that he was able to come through this in such a positive manner. It's tough, right? Like you miss a chance to catch a ball like that, and it could have gone in a different direction. But the amount of love he gets from Dodgers fans almost immediately, the way the story turns into something positive, I love that. We need more of that in the world right now, and I'm so glad that he was able to share that story. And I would just love to get one of those 2,000. Just give me one baseball at a game sometime. I would love that. Doesn't even have to be a Shohei Ohtani home run ball. Just any old ball, I will take it. Let us finish with the cooler. 5 things that I'm watching for as the Vikings open play this weekend. Number 1, obvious, Sam Darnold. How is he going to play? Is he going to be what they want him to be, which I think is basically a middle-of-the-pack quarterback who can manage a game? I don't know if that's his ceiling, but that feels like what they want out of Sam Darnold this season. Someone who's going to play clean, someone who's going to make good decisions, someone who's going to move the chains, put them in a position to win, distribute the ball to their playmakers. Hopefully, for the Vikings' sake, Jordan Addison plays. He's been limited with that ankle, but they were saying he's progressing towards full participation, hopefully in today's practice. So you get Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison out there. Can he spread the ball to his playmakers and be that sort of bridge quarterback who isn't just a placeholder, but can actually give them a successful season? We are all waiting to see if Sam Darnold can be that. Number 2, closely connected. How good is the run game going to be this year, and can they run the ball more effectively? They've got more talent there than they've had in a couple years. Aaron Jones, very good when healthy. Probably gives them their best running back since Dalvin Cook was closer to his peak, 2-3 years ago. That's kind of the comp for me right now. So you've got someone back there with more talent. You've got Ty Chandler in that kind of reserve role. Should get some carries as well. Keep Aaron Jones fresh. Can they move enough defensive linemen, though, to create those holes? Can the interior of the line in particular, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Blake Brandel, can they move people and create holes? Get into 2nd and 5 instead of 2nd and 9. That's what I'll be watching for on Sunday. Third thing, the corners. How are the corners going to hold up? Talent-wise, their first 3 veteran corners seem like they are pretty good. Give them a chance to compete. Stephon Gilmore certainly fits that bill. Byron Murphy, I think he's been good for them when he's been healthy, and he's been largely healthy when he's been with the Vikings, but he does have some injury history. And then Shaq Griffin comes in, gives them another option there as well. Those 3 should be kind of their core. Can they stay on the field? How healthy can they be? And if and when they are healthy, how much will that make an impact as far as how they are able to play defense this season? Number 4, I want to see the kickoff rules. I want to see how this plays out in a regular season game. Are teams just going to boot the ball out of the end zone and take it at the 30? Are they going to try to enforce some sort of kickoff that'll pin teams deeper? It's a completely new rule. I want to see how it plays out in an actual NFL regular season game involving the Vikings. Last thing, staying with special teams, I want to see how the rookie kicker does. It's been a while since they've had a rookie kicker. Hasn't always worked out great. Although if you remember when Blair Walsh was a rookie in 2012, he was fantastic. He was great, made all of his long kicks. So it's not all Daniel Carlson in 2018 when you have this memory of rookie kickers from the SEC. They do have some history of at least success over a few years before things have gone south sometimes. So I want to see how the kicking game is. Will Riker was great in the preseason. Can he keep that up when the pressure hits? Because that's going to be important. I think they're going to be in a lot of kind of close games, maybe medium to low scoring games. Could be a lot of like 23-20 kind of games where field goals are going to matter. Is the kicking game upgraded or at least going to be reliable this season? That will do it for me today. Tons of stuff going on this weekend. Lynx Fever tonight in Indiana. Caitlin Clark, Nafisa Collier, another matchup. That should be great. Gophers football plays tomorrow. Rhode Island. They should win that game. If they don't, man, the season's in trouble, but they should be fine tomorrow. Maybe they can get the pass game going a little bit more. Of course, Vikings on Sunday. All sorts of stuff this weekend. So plenty for me and Royce to talk about on Monday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Back at it again with Royce.